All right, we are live. Hello, all attendees. Great, we've got a list going on. I think everybody's connected. We lost Esther for a moment. I'm sure she'll be back. Welcome, everyone. Delighted to be here. Good afternoon. My name is Duana Koloshkova. We're going to be starting the event in just one moment. We did, like I said, lose one attendee, but I'm going to get started, and we're going to hope she comes back. Yep, she's left. She'll be back. So I'm going to get started with the discussion. So thank you all for joining the event. This is Building Resiliency and Determination for Women Leading with Impact. It's a pleasure to moderate this panel of women leaders for our seminar today. I'm Duana Koloshkova. I'm an attorney working in the building industry and the owner of a 100% minority-owned law firm. As is often the case with virtual media that we're all learning to work with these days, my eyes are going in different directions, and my camera is in one place where my text is in another, and then there's going to be like a bird going by or something. So I just want to welcome everybody to watch them their own normal selves in the seminar that we're going to be following up today. Welcome back. So again, it's a pleasure to moderate this panel of women leaders. This is Habitat for Humanity's annual Women Build Week. This is all about women helping women through building, connecting, raising funds for affordable housing. As we attend a DIY class, we build houses alongside each other on site this week, working on neighborhood repairs, and doing seminars such as this one. We are all proactively celebrating and thinking about what it means to be empowered and impactful as women. In Seattle and King County, in particular, we know how important it is to empower women, to empower ourselves. Over 60% of Habitat homeowners, in fact, are single female heads of household. That's a pretty impressive number. That's a lot of women taking risks and being resilient. I think we all got to pat ourselves on the back for that one. We should be proud, and we should definitely always raise that flag. As I indicated at the outset, as you know, our events this year are taking on a lot of different forms. Like other organizations, Habitat is pivoting due to the COVID-19 restrictions. So we have to implement a lot of social distancing practices to create this hybrid event, including virtual experiences, small group build days, and social media contests. I think what's going to come of this, what I hope what will come of this for Habitat, is that through some successes and some stumbling, we'll end up reaching more people as a result of hybrid events and be able to expand into different parts of our own lives in productive and helpful ways. And with that, it's very clear that the pandemic has shown that resilience is a key element for success. We've got this unpredictable and stressful time, but also every day in all of our lives, we have to have resilience as women leaders. Resiliency requires us to be flexible, to take risks, to embrace a mindset of continual learning and adaptability. And in that very vein, the Habitat team has pivoted to create this hybrid event. Here for this seminar, we've gathered together 4 women leading in business locally who will be speaking to this very timely topic of resiliency, sharing their challenges of how they've overcome that in the workplace and how they find resilience in their everyday lives. I'd like to introduce each of those folks to you. As I introduce you, please wave for the camera so everyone knows who you are. I'll start going in alphabetical order by first name. Beth Halverson. Beth recently joined Colliers as Executive Managing Director, responsible for the day-to-day management of the Seattle Bellevue brokerage operations. She's an industry veteran and was featured in the June 2009 Puget Sound Business Journal's Women Who Lead. Very impressive honor, and has spent the last year writing the Got a Minute column career advice for Seattle Business Magazine. Esther Richmond, welcome Esther, is the Vice President and Community Relations Manager at Bank of America for the Seattle Local Markets Organization, where she manages the foundation community efforts, network management, business integration support between 9 employee networks, nonprofit partnerships, and employee engagement to advance economic stability. Esther has been with Bank of America for 20 years. Next, MJ Vigil, MJ, if you'd wave, building talent, brand, and community for PUMCO Insurance. A leader of leaders, MJ's impact spans real estate and facilities, HR, D&I, ethics, marketing, communications, social good, and enterprise services. Prior to PUMCO Insurance, she led teams at Starbucks for 14 years in global HR, social responsibilities, and legal affairs. And Sarah Angus. Sarah, welcome. Sarah is the Director of Construction and Design Services and Director of Development at Starbucks. She has over 20 years of industry experience working on retail, commercial, and educational, hospitality, institutional, nonprofit, and residential projects at all levels of design and construction. Prior to joining Starbucks in 2019, she worked as a project executive at Lee Stretcher Lewis. She is a board member for Women Leaders in Construction and is a lecturer at the University of Washington Construction Management Program. Welcome all. A very impressive resume, and not only as far as your past history, but wow, you guys do a lot every day. That's a lot of different responsibility that you each take on. Thank you. Really impressive. We're going to start out with an overall sort of introductory question on the concept of resilience. We all know that resilience is crucial for our own lives as women. We need tools and resiliency for the pace and intensity of our working lives, societal pressures, gender bias, the extra responsibility of our home lives, including emotional involvement required from our household, family management, whether we're working with our younger, older, or contemporary generations. According to the American Psychological Association, resilience is the process of adapting well in the face of adversity, addressing trauma, tragedy, sources of stress, health problems, workplace or financial stressors. Resilience involves bouncing back from difficult experiences. Now that tone is almost, has a level of negativity to it, but the concept of resilience is incredibly positive. Each of you panelists have had a very demanding career balancing a variety of commitments. In thinking about resilience, and to kick off our discussion, can you each talk about a situation where you felt you've been able to, I guess, dig deep and find resilience in your professional lives? And Beth, I'm gonna put the spotlight on you. I'm sorry. I gotta start with someone so we don't have too much of a pause. Let's just take a couple minutes and then hopefully we can kind of go around the room, start out with this question and then continue on to, I hope, what will be a very stimulating conversation about resiliency. Beth, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be a part of this panel. I'm really impressed with everybody's backgrounds and look forward to, getting to know you all even better once we're past COVID and we can do the normal preps. My background is really unique in the sense that and I thought a lot about this question because I've been through a lot of different things in my life, but the thing that I thought would be the most helpful and that I've learned is I've actually changed jobs and I've moved across the country and back again. So I've changed markets and I've changed jobs and I've changed aspects of what I'm contributing in all in commercial real estate. So over 30 years in one industry in commercial real estate. But I have worked on the owner side, the service side. I've done a lot of different components of one business, but I've also quit jobs and left without another job, knowing that I had sort of done everything I could in one role. And in order to free myself up from, the guilt and the loyalty that you feel when you've worked one place for a while, to free up enough space for me to put my head into what do I want to do next, I've quit jobs. That means I moved from the Portland, Oregon market to Boston with no job, but with, my personal life, and then rolled up my sleeves and found a new job and made friends and made connections and made networking and really applied myself. And then when the time came, I again moved from Boston back to Seattle. And I think the takeaway is you don't necessarily have to move across the country to sort of reinvent yourself and create opportunities, but I think it's helped for me to be really resilient in the sense that I'm not afraid now that I will or won't find another job. I'm not afraid now that I will or won't be able to contribute, because through each one of those changes, I was able to not only prove to other companies and other teams that I was capable, but I was also able to prove that to myself. And I think that, you're only as good as how you feel about yourself and your own contributions. And if you're working someplace where you are feeling stuck or stifled, or that you've exhausted sort of what you can contribute, my suggestion is, and always is, to be brave and have courage and take some leaps of faith in yourself. And every single time I've done that, I have landed far beyond my wildest expectations with roles that were really well suited for me, but beyond my own, vision of what I could contribute. So that's what I'd like to say today.
Interesting. That translates to so many different situations, not just across country, but so many different ways that we might transition jobs. Who can I look to next? Esther, would you like to? Oh, Sarah. Go for it.
Sure. Yeah, I'll go. So this was a great question, because I thought of, and I think, Beth, same thing, like every time you change a job, you're like, okay, well, this is going to be different. But I thought what might be more helpful for the audience is re-entry into the workplace after having children. So I have 3 young daughters, and they're 18 months apart. So bingo, bango, bongo. And while I did work, but as a consultant, and I taught at the University of Washington during the time that I was in that time period, but really re-entering with a company and having the courage in myself to say, okay, I've been off for 4 years, out of the industry, on the periphery, but not really in it. And to say, okay, yes, I can do this. I was approached by a developer to help them build a new general contractor for them. It's GenCap Construction, if you've heard of them around town. And so I was working with Main Street, and we built this general contracting. And I never built a general contractor. I didn't know what to do. And every day was a new challenge. And for me, it was just, okay, you can do this. In addition to figuring out how to manage my home life, because 3 young daughters, it's all, you can't be great at everything, but you got to just keep going every day. And every day was a new challenge between home life and work life. And I will say, again, to echo Beth, it's once you've gone through that, you don't fear, you learn to not fear the unknown. The unknown is actually really exciting. I love the best jobs and the best projects I've ever been on are the ones that I was the most fearful of, because when I got done with it, I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, of course I could do that.
Embrace change.
Mm-hmm.
Esther?
Yep, I'll add into that. So what I'll say, and it's already been shared, as far as the management piece of it, and I do see that, your personal life and professional, they very much weave in within each other. And so being able to balance and manage all of that is not an easy task to do, not at all. And so I've found myself in many, situations where juggling all of that is tough to do. But what I've realized is that, at least in the career that I found myself in today, is that I've been able to place myself in a position that this career has really, I find ways that motivates me in so many different ways. And that motivation helps me to really balance out how I'm managing things both on the personal and professional side. And so, my advice in what I say is, as you seek to be in leadership roles in your career in general, is that you really find positions that motivate you so that you can continue to have resiliency in whatever situation that you might find yourself in. So just that balancing management of both worlds, and allowing that to really help elevate you even within your career. So yeah, that's what I'll share there.
MJ.
Yeah, I was thinking about early in career, and when you first start building your career and you have a desire to move into leadership, which was my situation. I had a desire to move into leadership early in career, and the need to experience build. And my choice to rapidly build experience, which is something that I also recommend, was to add experience by engaging in community service and board work, at the same time as seeking out stretch opportunities within your current role, so that you're, again, building those experiences internally and stretch opportunities, and then also building experiences externally. As you're building those experiences, there are times when you're overstretching yourself, because at least I did. And again, in my experience, I was working so hard. I had so much ambition. I was working so hard. I had this high desire to rapidly build. As a young professional, I did not want to hear that I needed experience to get to achieve my goals. But experience is truly something that is so important to underpin your capability as a leader. And so there were times where, and it's truly okay, all stages of leadership, to feel points of exhaustion or points of challenge or points of self-doubt or fear, whether you're moving or starting over, or the different examples that were given by my peers. All of those are okay, but you just can't get stuck in any of those feelings. And so it's truly a matter of continuing to have confidence and finding the strength within yourself to push past those moments of fear or self-doubt, and keep building those experiences that enable you to get to those goals that you are achieving and aspiring towards.
Thank you. In preparing with the group for this panel, I'm going to go a little rogue on you guys, because as you guys are talking, and we're thinking about how to convey what you guys have learned over the years. We talk a lot about things like leadership roles, and we talk about the concept of leadership as if that is something that everybody has the same mutual understanding of, and what that means and what a leadership role is. But when I think about the people who are attending this program, and I think about the people who really need to hear from you, it's people who are maybe early, they may be young, they may be old, they may be at the end of a career, at the beginning of the career, or starting a new career, or thinking about a career, or wishing they had a career, right? They're not always at the top of where they hope to be at a given decade in their life, right? But yet, I think you will agree with me, leadership is not found for, you don't turn 50 and suddenly you're a leader because you're managing a group of X number of men or whatever it is, right? Leadership is so much more than that, isn't it? I'm interested in what do you guys think of when you think about a leadership role? What does that mean to you? And
I'll jump in on that. So there's a couple things, and I think MJ just started to hit on it a little bit, and I think our question layers into it really nicely. I think that if you went around, you would probably find out that all four of us are we're known to be really good at whatever task we were given. So the task was, at the beginning of our career, it was in whatever field that we were given to do. We became known as women who could be counted on to do a really good job at whatever that task was. It wasn't leading, it wasn't necessarily some big role. It's been a very menial role or a very beginning role. But whatever that role was, I know that I have given that advice a lot when I've mentored, which is be good at the task you're doing today so I can count on you, which means I can give you something more to do, and I know you'll be stretched, but you'll do a good job. The other thing that I think I just want to throw out there is I have always wanted to understand what the goal of the company is. So regardless of what my responsibilities were, if I do that job really well inside of an understanding of what the company's objectives are, whether it's to sell more product or to do better customer service or build a building or whatever we're doing, I think you have to understand what the company's objectives are and how you fit into that. And when you understand that piece of it and you start to understand the numbers and you start to understand the financial, revenue generation and profitability, it starts to layer in, and that is something that you can learn from the very beginning of entering any role, is how do I fit in with the company's objectives?
Esther, you want to jump in on that one?
Yeah. So, when I think of, leadership, and, just what I think is important as like a leader, and, what I've learned not only from leaders that I've worked in throughout my 20 years with the bank, what I feel important for myself, to support others is really developing others, developing their leadership. And I think for me, that is what makes and really allows for somebody to stand out as a strong leader. So I've always felt that was extremely important. I'll throw a book out there that I've recently read because I think it's important for others that are looking at moving into a leadership role. And some of you might have heard of this book already, Multipliers by Liz Wiseman. Any of the other panelists heard of her? Okay. No? Okay. So you have to check it out. It's called Multipliers. And the book is really about encouraging growth and creativity within their own employees. So for me, again, I think that is very important as a leader, that you have that ability to really develop others so that as an organization, as a company, you're much stronger with more leaders. So, yeah.
I think for me with leadership, so as I think of being a leader or promoting leaders, I've worked for leaders and I've worked for managers. And I think for people who are in their early part of their career, there's a key difference, right? Managers manage, and leaders you want to follow. And if you're a leader, you have to have followers, right? And so you have to build your own brand. You have to build your own team. You lift your people up around you. And then you also have to provide, I love that, know where you are in the company. As a leader, I need to tell my people where we are where we are as a group within the company and how we're contributing to the success and what the roadmap is. And so visioning the roadmap and giving people something to look forward to, something to celebrate, something to aspire to. For me, that's when I've worked for people that are leaders, that's when I feel the most just happy, right? And I hope that for the people that are on my team, they feel the same way, right? So it's just creating that path of where we're going.
MJ, I know you're going to jump in on this, and I want to have you dovetail as well in your thoughts. As you think about the leadership role concept, can you also add to that what you think prepared you well for taking on leadership roles?
Yeah. First, I'll just add into that. In business, I think leaders, as I think everyone has said, they set the strategy, they shape the culture, they build the team, and then they make bold moves, right? That's kind of what the leader does in business. A leader in life. So if you're a parent and if you're a leader in your community, wherever you might be as a leader in stage of life, I think everyone, especially right now in the environment that we're in, is looking for something and someone to trust. And I think as a leader, it's our role to build trust. And the way that we build trust is through two things: competence and character. And so I think that the combination of having strong competence in our ability to do the work and then leading with character, those two things make us trusted, and that then enables us to be strong leaders. And then what has prepared me over the years to lead is really a few different things. I'm going to be a little technical and with the hope that it's helpful to those who are seeking to prepare themselves for leadership. For leadership in business, there are a couple of kind of sound foundational programs that I think are helpful. And so things like situational leadership help you to flex your leadership style to the needs of your team. Project management help you to take a vision and actually bring it to reality and resource and bring it to a result. Having a good understanding of lean methodologies help you with process optimization. And then design thinking gives you a good understanding of how to innovate and have good innovation principles. So if you have those as good enabling foundational programs, that it helps you to build on top of that experience and then mentors that you can draw and infuse their experience in, and then research and data. I think you have to be, as a leader, a lifelong learner. Because you can't just be an expert in your area. You have to be an expert in your industry, and you have to have strong expertise in cross-sector business so that you're a strong leader overall. So that's, I think, how you prepare to be a strong leader.
And as we're talking just to all the attendees, there's a chat box that as you have questions or requests, if you want to enter those into the chat box, I can raise those as we go along or as a Q&A towards the end, just depending on time. But really, definitely got a couple of comments appreciating book recommendations. So as we're talking, if you guys think about a particular book or podcast or something that you've enjoyed that has made a difference. For example, MJ, you were just listing out a number of different sort of very concrete stepping stones. So if as you're thinking about it, if there's any books that, or again, podcasts or other sort of medium that you thought might be really valuable. And again, we've got folks who do regular contributions to local media as well. So that's going to be another great resource for everybody, of course, in the Seattle Business Magazine, for example. But yeah, MJ, I don't know if you think of anything now or as we go. But again, to the attendees to chat box, go for it, throw questions at me so I can circulate those.
I like that. I like how you went to reach for a book, and I know I looked over to my bookshelf and said, okay, which one is another one?
Yeah, totally. Let me ask you this.
Same.
I have so many, but in my mind I was like, oh gosh, I gotta grab just this one that I've got like 3 or 4 that I love. But
you can.
are we all readers? We all love to read, right?
Yeah, you can jump up and grab the book and show it if there's books that you guys are really excited about. There you go. Leaders Eat Last. And who's the author on that one?
Last.
Simon Sinek. Perfect. Thank you all. Great. Okay. Well, and let's keep on going. So, Sarah, I'm going to go back to you. I'm going to stick on the topic of sort of the proactive leadership for a minute, and then I'm going to move us back over into resiliency. But before you do, I was really interested in this idea of having you talk about a satisfying leadership role that you have had in your career, and what made it something that stands out to you as opposed to all the other work that you've done.
Sure. So I think if I think of teams that I've worked with, so construction, we have different teams and it's just, you're constantly moving. I've had 4 magical teams, and I'm going to talk about one magical team because it was the one that got us through the biggest, most challenging, ridiculous project ever. So we did Troy Block, which is a block job. Amazon was the tenant. It was so satisfying because it was a job. First of all, it was the biggest project I'd ever done in my career. So I was scared all the time. I had a team that was huge. It was the largest team I had ever managed. And it was an amazing experience because of the people, right? And so for me, being able to mentor and teach and lead through what was very challenging for me in my career path, it was just wonderful. The success that came out of that project, that's what I love about it most, is that all of my project engineers are now either project managers or senior project managers or even leaders of groups. And so as I think about that team and how we just all were able to align around the goals of the project, not just getting it done, not just being on budget, not just being on time, but all the little incremental things that we did along the way as a team, it's magical.
Interesting. You said something that really resonated with me, that you were scared.
Yes.
Do you think we can all agree that being scared when you're taking on something that involves a leadership role is normal?
Oh, yeah. Yes. The most satisfying experiences that I've had is when I'm the most scared and I'm able to, fear, there's a couple of things that happen with fear. You can go to your lizard brain and just shut down, or it can motivate you. And I suggest that most great leaders are motivated by fear. It can be not the only motivating factor, but certainly a motivating factor in success.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, part of resiliency, part of fear is the concept of discernment, right? I mean, just because everybody jumped off the cliff doesn't mean it's a good idea, and maybe fear was appropriate in that circumstance, and that can be not just literal but metaphorical. It causes me to think that resiliency does involve the concept of being scared, right? Because it takes building the mind, right? I don't know, Beth. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I love exploring this because I think that the resiliency is that balance, right? And it's, we've probably all, if you sat with anybody and started to ask them to unravel the challenges they face in their personal life, whether it's having children and juggling, sick family members. For me, it can cause the paralysis that Sarah's talking about, which is, I've seen it over and over again on my teams. I have team members that I know I could call no matter what's going on and say, hey, this situation's come up. I need help. I need a resource. Would you tackle this? And there's people that'll be like, yeah, call me. No problem. I'll figure it out. And then there's people on the team that will say, and they'll go through a litany of like all the things they need to know about that problem or project or opportunity, analyze it to the point where they need to make a thoughtful decision. And I think it takes a balance of both of those. I'm not saying you always want to be that person that goes, yeah, bring it on, because that's also not healthy, and it doesn't create boundaries and space and those things that you need. But you have to be the kind of person also that doesn't have to have every answer solved in order for you to jump in. And I think some of the greatest opportunities that I've had in leadership and in my career and in my personal life have been when I've said, okay, I don't know how this is all going to go down. And if it goes down and it doesn't go down well, I can probably survive that too. Like, you almost have to be willing to say, what's the worst? I'm a strategist, right? So best case, worst case. What's the worst possible outcome? Just go there. And then what's the best? What do I hope? And somewhere in the middle is probably where it's likely going to land. But for me, it helps me move quickly when somebody calls and says, can you tackle this? Mm-hmm. Kind of bang that out in my head and go, yeah, sure, bring it on. I guess as other panelists have also that ability to sort of naturally make those decisions quickly, because I think leaders have to do that.
MJ, you leaned in. Oh, that's it.
I was going to say absolutely. And just to kind of give, as far as my background, I would still say that I'm fairly new myself in being in this leadership type role. So I'm learning every day. I'm placing myself in situations and positions where that sense of, the fear of, can I do it? Am I going to make the wrong decision? Or what's the right approach? What's the best solution? Who am I reaching out to? All of that, runs through our minds. And I think what's important and what a lot of people don't realize is it's just a matter of getting there. You've got to get there first so that you can then look back and reflect on, okay, what it is that I did? What were the steps that I took? And could I do it better next time? But it's really getting over that initial hump, that initial fear, to put yourself out there. And I think as leaders, that's what you find yourself doing all the time.
Interesting. This is related to that, in that I want to ask you guys, and MJ, I'll start with you, as to what your habits and practices are for managing your energy and positivity, and your resiliency, especially now, when there's both this very overt stress of a pandemic, but it's also very insidious. But in asking that question, MJ, and I kind of want to come back to Esther as well, I keep hearing these very concrete thoughts from each of you. Like, they're very, and I think that's very valuable for all attendees, but I'm interested in, what do you really do in the moment? So when you think about habits and practices for managing your energy, when you talk, Esther, about really listing these things out, do you sit down for half an hour and write this stuff out? Do you meditate? How deliberate are you really? And how much is this sort of hindsight and how you could have done it better in the past? MJ, I'll turn that over to you. All of that.
That's really good, because I thought about this question in advance, and my first recommendation is self-care, because you can't give what you don't have. as a leader. And I thought, well, when I give that recommendation, I'm going to have to hold up a mirror, because I'm better at telling people to do that than I am at doing it for myself. Because I can get into a high speed sprint and then a crash. I need to do a better job at getting into a rate of a marathon and taking the time to self-care along the way. But I just have a really bad habit and have for a lifetime of, sprint, crash, sprint, crash, sprint, crash. So my advice is to do better than me on that one, is have good self-care and to recognize the value of, again, you can't give what you don't have. And because my next recommendation is to find strength in serving others. And because I truly do, as I believe that if you're giving to others, you're not self-focused. And so when you find that you're caught up in fear, or if you're caught, and we all talked about, there's moments that we feel as leaders and that we have fear, and it's okay. It's a real thing. It's a real thing to have a fear or self-disappointment or failures along the path, or exhaustion, or whatever those things are. And the way to move past and out of that, again, is to serve others. And so that's one of my recommendations that I think I feel like I am better at that one. I also use positive quotes and mantras. So I try to use a lot of positive self-talk, like almost to a goofy extent in my head. So I'm constantly saying things in my head, and sometimes I'll share it with my team, and I don't mind if they judge me. I'm kind of at a point in my life where I've relaxed into myself, so it's okay. I don't, so right now my team would tell you that the quote that we're using is not from a great historian. It's not from an amazing athlete, but instead we're using Dora from Finding Nemo, because there is a lot of external media pressure. There's a lot of things going on, and so the quote that we're using is "just keep swimming." So as things keep coming, we just keep going. Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. That's helpful to you or your teams. You're welcome to use it. Just keep swimming.
Esther and Sarah, I want to send this back to you both. And as you do, can you also talk about some of this from when you were starting out in the path that led you to where you are now? When you look at folks who are going through the process of their career, and maybe they think about goofy things or innovative risks, like MJ's talking about, I think in some ways it's easier to be goofy and innovative when you're already in a position of some authority. But when you're trying to learn how to lead either early or in a different role, what about that kind of risk as you're thinking about that being a healthy habit, but yet, I don't know, should I be doing that? Is that really good for me? Or should I always be, kind of stiff and kind of what I think my boss would expect of me?
Yeah. So I think it's important that we say this. We're all human, right? So it's okay to fail. And I tell myself that all the time. The only way that we will learn in anything in life is if we take that chance and we take that risk. So whether it's a failed risk, that's okay, because we're still going to learn from that. And I think we've all heard that throughout our lives. And it's something that I continuously tell myself that, right before the call today, I sat and I meditated. I gave myself a moment to take deep breaths. So going back to what MJ said about that self-care, I do a lot of reflecting, and I don't know if that's just something that has been a natural thing for myself, but that I think is important, that allows me to see what I feel I could be doing differently for, for the next situation or whatnot. But I think that's helped me to develop myself and grow as an individual. So that the self-reflect, I think, is very helpful. And I'm losing my thoughts to your other question.
Going back to habits and practices and for managing your energy and positivity.
Yeah. And so I think it's important that everyone finds comfort in getting feedback. So we shouldn't be afraid. And I think in some cases, you might take that risk in a certain approach that you have, and it might not have been the best, but that's okay. And again, this is where you have people that you're working with that you've built, whether it's your team or it's other leaders that can share with you feedback and advice and suggestions to help continue on, within your path there. And so I think that for a lot of people, we tend to hold back from wanting to ask for feedback. And I think we all need to be better at that because that only allows us to grow.
It's an excellent additional idea. Wow. I have a question from the audience. I think this is a great time for it for each of you. And let me start out. Let me throw this to Beth and Sarah, just so that we kind of keep everybody talking. But this is for real. I think for everybody is what was the pivotal moment in your career that you felt really made you grow as a leader? Was there a moment, or was there a sensation, or was there a process that really, when you think about it, struck you as, that's a big one right there?
For me, I don't know, Sarah, I could see your wheels turning too. I don't know that I have like a moment. I think of several times in my career where my boss or mentor basically gave me permission to take risks in what I was about to do. In other words, had my back to the point where then I could get out in front of something and shine and make mistakes like MJ's talking about and Esther's talking about. So for me, I think when I look back at 30 plus years in this business, the moments that I still draw on is remembering when somebody had my back and the sense of confidence that gives you to go try to do your best. And so I try to do that now, which is to tell people, go ahead and go do this. And even if you fail or you make mistakes or you make them mad or it doesn't go as well as we'd hoped, I'm here for you. I trust you and I've got your back.
Yeah, and I'll just add on to that and say, yes, and I think it's how you accept and reflect on your failures, right? So I've had lots of failures. Everybody has had lots of failures, but how you have your own self-reflection on what truly was, the issue that led you to failure, accepting that and then changing or learning from that failure, those are the moments that make you great, right? I can make so many excuses in my head of why I would have failed, and it never ever points back to me. It's pointing out at other people, and it's when I point back to myself and I really, unpack what I did that contributed to a failure. That's when those are the aha moments of, oh my gosh, okay, I can't do that. I got to do this. And so I wouldn't say it's a moment. There's many moments. There's no pivotal aha, but there's many of those as you grow through your career.
Interesting. Yeah, I think a lot of what you guys are saying is that it builds upon itself. It's more like a series of waves that build and build and build, as opposed to the precipice, I have jumped it. Interesting.
I'm not there yet. I don't know about you, everybody else.
Yeah, and
I'm still growing.
It's all about ongoing growth. I if you don't mind, I want to comment on this one too, because a lot of what you guys have talked about is a situation where you may have had a very supportive boss or mentor. And I can think of a time where I did not. I had in my career until I've now owned my own business, but I have always worked for men who, and this is also true for many women, who are not necessarily very good at drawing out their employees to their best abilities, for example, or as Beth was saying, really sort of understanding the balance between this employee has this strength and this one has this strength, and you know, how do I play these so that we bring everybody up? Sometimes we're just working, right? and we're not necessarily thinking about that. And I know for me, something I think about was when I have had, especially early on in my career, where I've had to go to my boss and say, with a lot of fear, I need this because I need you to do better at this so that I can do better at my job. And this might be any number of things, but that's incredibly scary to have to go to a boss and to lead from a position where the ability to lead is not necessarily obvious. Do you guys, does that resonate with any of you? I'm not getting a lot of, when you were early in your career, did you all have to, I guess, were there things that you wish you would have known at the time that could have prepared you better or could have promoted you into more of a leadership role in a different way, that if I knew this now, if I knew this then, what I know now, type of question? Beth, does that trigger any thoughts? Or MJ, either of you?
I'll say that I have had good and not so good bosses and supervisors along my journey. And along my journey, I always try to look at it as if you have a good boss and a bad boss, you can learn something from them. You can learn what to do and what to emulate, and the bad ones are teaching you what not to do to people. And it's the ones that are just kind of meh, that, you know, or they're just so mediocre that you're just not learning anything along working for them. So the ones that are in that space of extreme are teaching you a lot. And the ones that are really not good are teaching you a lot about resilience and teaching you a lot about how to manage and lead yourself and how to stay, what your boundaries are, how to set your boundaries, how to deliver within an environment that is challenged, so that when you get into other environments, you're able to manage even more effectively. So I think as each challenge is set before you, it's not necessarily a bad thing to encounter a bad boss. You have to recognize that each step in your career is a step. You're probably not going to retire out of that and be in that one place forever. So you have to determine how long are you willing to tolerate that bad boss, and what are you going to gain during that time period. And during that time period, you have to determine, again, what can you gain, how are you going to manage through that and work through that time and space, and then figure out how you're going to use that to launch you into your next step and truly try to find your own development opportunity within that challenge period.
I think it's important just to add on to that. I think the role of a mentor in your career, if you don't have one, find one and find multiple, because your boss most of the time is not your mentor. Sometimes it's wonderful and you get a boss that will become your mentor or a mentor in your life. But I don't know where I don't know where I'd be without the mentors that I have, that I currently have, that I've had throughout my career path. I have one mentor that I've had since I started at Ball Construction a million years ago. Like, so those people are the people that are the sounding boards, are the ones that are pushing you, the ones that are giving you license to take risks. And they may not be within your company. They're usually an outside, so that the network that you create for yourself is so important.
Oh, that's really interesting. But I have one more question, and then we're going to need to wrap this up. And I think this ties right into it. And I'll ask Esther to start with this, because I think also what you guys are talking about is another resiliency consideration, which is seeking positive connections, right? Particularly where you're not in the ideal work scenario, you've got to find other positive connections. So Esther and then maybe Beth, how have you developed those types of connections, found support, especially in those situations where you need to go outside maybe the normal parameters?
Yeah, so I would say for this, I think this, the connections that you build, the networks that you have by far play a big part in all of our lives. It's so important to have those relationships. You want people that are there to help build you up, that want to see you succeed in life. And so whether it's mentors, sponsors, I've often started to hear this board of executives that you can, or board of directors, I think is what it is, that you can start building out now. I love that. Absolutely, we should be doing that. And so if you haven't started that, again, I would encourage that you do. Ways in which I'll tell you as far as how I build my network of working with women and other women leaders, I think it's important that we are uplifting and empowering each other. And ways that I do that here at my company is through our different employee network groups that we have, both internally and then also externally. And so we've been able to really expand even, I should say, I've been able to expand the connections that I have with other, other employee resource groups and just hearing different perspectives and seeing how they lead at their companies and their positions at their corporations. And that has really helped lift me further, even within my own career. So I think building that network by far is so important. I can tell you personally, just with that network of family and friends is so important. And as you build and move into roles, leadership roles, again, it goes back to the development piece of it and how you build your, your strengths through, those connections and hearing from others' perspectives. So, yeah, Beth, I don't know if there was anything else you want to add to that, but I think seeking out the, other network groups. One more thing that I'll say, there's other organizations that we all could be working with. In my role today, I get to work with so many different community partners that we have, but there's one in particular, Future for Us. It is an organization that empowers women and advancing them through their work and their career. And so through those type of connections allows you to build out your network even further. So for me, those are just some of the things that I do personally to build out my network.
Cool. Beth, I'm going to give you the last word.
I agree with what Esther just said. When you're early in your career, you have to focus maybe on networking inside of your career and inside of your industry. And there's certainly a lot of networking opportunities, but the best thing that I've ever done to sort of add value to my own path is to volunteer and get involved in nonprofits, because you get to touch all different kinds of business lines and other individuals doing a lot of different things. And it helps create perspective, not only for, not only does it make you feel good when you're donating your time and volunteering and participating in other boards and other nonprofits, but it also gives you exposure to a lot of other people that you can develop as part of your network, if you will. And they usually become friends. They can give you good advice throughout your career. So I agree with Esther that you have to give back.
But I mean, what a perfect way to wrap up what seems like an incredibly fast hour. Wow. I think just for the attendees, you know, when we got started, we all sort of went, what's the flow going to be like? And, you know, I think everybody here is new to each other. And that's another sign of resiliency, because the connections that you can build can build quickly when you're all really open to the experience, like the panelists are here. I want to thank you guys so much. Just before I wrap this up, and I've got about 30 seconds, you guys, any last book recommendations just for the group or blogs that I tell you guys, I've been listening to the Brene Brown blog. I don't know if anybody's been listening to that, but that's, in terms of resiliency, that's really helped a lot. I'll let folks chime in as I wrap up. Any last quickie books?
I just finished one. Sorry, it's called Thrive by Design: the Neuroscience That Drives High Performance Cultures by Don Ream. Excellent read, really short, but totally nerdy, but really a great book.
Awesome, thank you. All right. Well, I want to thank our amazing panelists, and thanks to the attendees, the audience, for also your really great questions. Really appreciate that, and supporting Habitat for Humanity Women Build Week. I think you all know that there's information at www.habitatsKC.org. And I hope everybody takes a little time. I'd strongly recommend that you take a few minutes this afternoon and reflect on the discussion, what you liked, what you didn't like, what you hoped for, what you'd like to find in the future. I really want to extend, on behalf of all the panelists, much success to you all in your very, very diverse walks of life. Resilience, leadership. Doesn't matter where you are, lead where you land, for sure. Thanks all. Have a lovely afternoon. I'm going to ending the session. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.